In this video, I'm going to show you how to get an 80% show up rate. Not 30%, not 50%, 80%. Because if you could follow that, you will win the webinar game. Right now, a majority of people who sign up for your webinar, they're never actually going to show up. Think about that. They were interested enough to register, but when it's time to go live, crickets. Why is that? Well, it's because everybody does webinars wrong. And here's how I know. So according to Webinar Ninja, a 50% webinar show-up rate is considered excellent. And the average webinar attendance rate is only 25 to 35%. So the real question is, why are we putting up with this? Why are we allowing half the people who said they joined to disappear and then proceed to pat ourselves on the back and call that a success? Well, I'm not sure about you, but my bullcrap meter is going off the charts. So if you want people to actually show up, you need to understand one thing. Attention is currency. Now, again, you should be shooting for a 80% show up rate. Think about it. If your webinar is viewed as a priority, then people will show up. And if you have their attention, your sales will go up. All right, let's get into it. A few years ago, I was promoting a webinar, and the topic was exciting and it was well received because we had over 4,000 people sign up. But guess how many people showed up live? 855. So out of the 4,000 who registered, less than 1,000 people came. That's 20%. And I was crushed. Not because I wasn't thankful for the massive audience that did show up. Believe me, I was. But because everybody around me told me that the promotion was successful. Like, yeah, we got a large crowd to register, but I couldn't understand why we were celebrating when 80% of them skipped out on us. So I asked, remind me again what we did to convince them to show up. And the answer was this. Well, we sent a few reminder emails. A few reminder emails. That's it. That's what we did to get people to show up. And this is how most people treat webinars. This is how I used to treat webinars. They think people will magically remember and drop everything and join your webinar. But let's be real, people forget, right? They get distracted. Their dog throws up on the carpet. Life happens. So here is strategy number 1. It's to make your webinar unmissable. People don't show up for information. They show up to solve a problem. And most webinar topics are boring. Kind of like this. How to grow on YouTube. Okay? If that's your title, then I'm sorry. Nobody cares. What that sounds more like is another random piece of content that somebody is never going to use. But now, listen to this. The 3-step YouTube growth blueprint that took me from 0 to 50,000 subscribers. It's specific, it's tangible, and guess what? It's unmissable. So listen up. If you don't make your topic irresistible, no amount of reminders will save you. Let me say that one more time. If you don't make the webinar topic irresistible, there is no amount of webinar reminders that will save you. So fix this first and you'll immediately see a jump in attendance. Okay, strategy number 2, the butts in seats sequence. Most people send 1 email, maybe 2. And that's why less than half show up. So here's the real winning formula, okay? Stick with me. First, right after registration, hype them up on the confirmation email. That's email number 1, okay? And by the way, don't just say thank you for registering, right? Make them excited and make it easy for them to attend by having a little add to calendar button in that email. Okay, 3 days before your webinar, this is where you're going to send the second email. And this one is going to remind them of the transformation that they're going to get. For email number 3, we're going to send this one 2 days before your webinar starts. This is where you're going to share a teaser or bonus that they're going to get by attending. So if your webinar title is the 3-step YouTube growth blueprint that took me from 0 to 50,000 subscribers, then reveal one of those steps that took you there. Okay. You don't have to go into detail about it, but this is the type of stuff that builds people's curiosity. All right. So a day before your webinar, send an email with a friendly conversational tone to remind your registrants that the webinar is happening the next day. Tomorrow, the webinar is happening, right? And if I were you, I would mention that I was doing a live Q&A at the end. So if they have questions that they can ask me personally, but only if they show up live to the session. You getting it now? So it's the day of the webinar. You're going to send at least 2 emails today. The first is a short, energetic message to build excitement and remind registrants that it's almost time. You got to mention that the webinar experience will be better on their computer and not their tiny phone screen. We want people committed in front of their computers at their home desk, wherever they are, where their computer lives, right? Instead of on their phones where they're out somewhere and they're distracted. Now, what I would do is I would attach a picture to this email of you, okay, sitting at your desk with your streaming setup, so they can see the behind the scenes of you prepping for the webinar. The 6th and the last email that you send out is cut and dry. Very simple. The email has one job, and it's to get them into that live webinar room. And you're basically just notifying them that you're now live and you're ready for people to join in. Now, if you've never run a webinar before, or maybe if you're even new to digital marketing, these emails that I just listed out, these are all automated. And that means you don't have to be there to press send. Pretty cool, right? Most webinar platforms and email marketing software tools, they will allow you to send and schedule pre-webinar emails to your registrants based on some sort of time interval, right? So like 2 days before, send this. 3 days before, send this. 1 hour before, send this, right? So what I'm telling you is this. Write these emails ahead of time, and the software that you use will send them for you at the exact right time. But don't just stop there, because let's be real, email open rates, and that's why you need to send out good old-fashioned textual messages. Just don't overdo it. Right after they register, a simple "got you locked in, see you soon" text, okay? That one, it does the trick. And then 1 hour before your webinar, send them the message, "We're starting in 1 hour, don't miss this." Okay, and that just essentially reminds them about the webinar, and also that they need to book it home from their kids' soccer practice in order to get in front of their computer. Okay, sorry, Timmy, no McFlurry on the way home from practice today. Daddy's got to get home now. Okay, and let's be real, the ice cream machine, it's broken anyways. Okay, all right. So the last text you send is when you go live. You literally just say, "We're live, get in now." Okay, super simple. But by sending texts in conjunction with these emails, you are leaving them with no excuse to not know about your webinar and when it's happening, right? So the people who don't show up live, yeah, they must have made a conscious effort to avoid attending. And some things you just don't have any control over. That's why 100% show up rate is simply unattainable. But remember, you should absolutely have more than half of your registrants showing up live, especially if you're hitting them with a minimum of 6 emails and 3 text messages. But if you're anything like me, you don't have a copywriter, okay? So writing all of these out could be challenging. And I didn't want to spend days and days writing these emails. So what I did instead is I created a prompt, and I just let ChatGPT write them for me. Okay, well, at least the first version. I'll go back and edit them later. By the way, this is the prompt I use to write all my emails. So it starts off by assigning a job title to the chatbot, and then I fill in the brackets with the name of my webinar and who's going to be in the target audience. And below, it's got detailed instructions for each email that I want to send. I'll copy the whole thing, head over to ChatGPT, paste in the prompt, and then fill in the brackets. Okay, let's use my example from earlier and say that I want to do a webinar called The 3-Step YouTube Growth Blueprint that took me from 0 to 50,000 subscribers. Okay, so for that target audience, you know what? I actually wrote a prompt to help me figure out my target audience too. So, okay, here it is. Let's run this real quick and then we'll get back to the butts and seats sequence. Okay, so all I have to do is paste in my webinar title and it'll give me all these details. Okay, this is going to give me demographics. We got psychographics. We got a detailed target audience summary. We've got an underserved need. We've got a thesis, and then it's going to create a customer avatar. Okay, so out of all of this, I'm just going to use the audience summary. So I'll copy and paste it into my butts and seats sequence. And now that we have the brackets filled in, we can press enter and we have ChatGPT just write this entire email sequence for us. Okay, 10 seconds later, this thing's written, but we're not ready to roll just yet. These emails are good, but they're, like I said earlier, it's more of a template. It's more of a starting point, right? We start here and then we can add our spice to it, right? So I prefer using something like this to start with rather than staring at a blank page. You know what I mean? So what you're looking at, by the way, is the inside of Fearless Webinar Academy. It's everything you need to build your webinar assets, like the registration page copy, the social media post, and this one right here, it writes your webinar script for you. It's pretty cool. So this is completely free, so you can steal my whole webinar building process. Okay. Enough yapping about Fearless Webinar Academy. Let's move on to strategy number 3, the giveaway hook. This one is so easy, it kind of almost feels like cheating. On that 1 hour before text, you tell them we're giving away a free prize to a random attendee. Must be live to win. Okay? Now, suddenly everybody who registered just got that text and they're like, okay, they're giving out a prize. I better attend live, right? Suddenly people are going to show up. And it doesn't have to be crazy, by the way. You could give away a Apple AirPods. You could do a $50 Amazon gift card, right? Maybe a signed copy of your book. The psychology is simple, right? FOMO is real. But the best part about giving something away while you're live is using it as a way to boost engagement in the webinar chat, right? So you could say, I'll be monitoring the chat throughout the webinar today, and the person who provides the most insightful comments is going to win a $50 Amazon gift card. And boom! Instant interaction. Now the people watching are engaged. They're hanging off the edge of their seats. They're listening intently to every word you say during your webinar. And you know what else they're doing? They're writing insightful comments in your webinar chat. Okay, before I move on to the last strategy, let me ask you this. Where else are you getting golden nuggets of information like this? If this video is helpful or has taught you something new, could you do me a favor and press that like button? It means a lot. To me, it means a lot to my channel, especially because I'm trying to grow it and get some more subscribers. And it keeps me motivated to keep giving away all of these webinar secrets for free. Now, strategy number 4, this one's the holy grail, okay? Paid webinars. Make them pay. Okay, this is how you really break the system and achieve that 80% show up rate. You make them pay to attend, right? Now, even if it's just $5, right? You could do $100, you know, even a smaller dollar amount would work as well. And here's why. It's because when people pay, they pay attention and they want to get their money's worth. And that just makes sense. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you want to get your money's worth if you paid for something? But here's the key, and don't miss this if you want to run a paid webinar, okay? You've got to deliver ridiculous value. You can't just charge people and then spend 30 minutes pitching them something else, okay? Don't do that. So if you do sell something at the end of your paid webinar, keep it tight because nobody wants to pay to watch an ad. Think about it this way. If your webinar is free, then the goal is to sell them your offer. And if your webinar is paid, then the goal is to fill the seats on your webinar. Any extra sales you make from your soft pitch at the end of your paid webinar is a bonus. So you have to give them so much value that by the end, they're thinking, I would have paid 10 times the amount of money I did for this. That's the goal. Understand? Okay, so here's the deal. If you're tired of low show-up rates, you now have the blueprint. Okay, here it is one last time. Make your webinar unmissable. Send a minimum of 6 emails and 3 text messages. Use giveaways to hook people in and keep them engaged during your webinar. And the last one, of course, is optional. Charge money for access, because skin in the game changes everything. If you do this, your webinar attendance will explode. More people, more engagement, and more sales. Now go implement this. And if you want the exact prompts that I use in this video to build your own webinars for free, well, the link is right below in the description. I'll see you in the next one.